Welcome back to Established Dominance Fantasy Football. I'm your host, Ding, and this is the Week 3 Under Over Show, which is short for underappreciated and overhyped. Kind of like boom or bust, but they have a lot more syllables, and that way they sound more important. Today, we'll take a look at skill players who are most likely to exceed or come up short of their expectations this week. And remember, I don't consider kickers to be skill players, so they won't be discussed. Now, before we jump in, do me a favor, and if you appreciate these podcasts, please hit the like and subscribe buttons and follow us on X at Established Dominance. Now let's start off with the injuries. It's a Wednesday, there's so many to cover, but I hit most of them in last night's waiver report, and Wednesday is traditionally the day the vets don't practice. So I'm just going to highlight the ones that are surprising for now, and you can follow my X feed for real-time updates during the week. Okay, here's the list. DK Metcalf, he's got a new hand injury. He's probably going to be fine, but this is a surprise for this week. Walker, he didn't practice, so Charbonnet is looking at another big role probably. Max Crosby came up with a new ankle injury. I'm not really worried about him, but he does have a juicy matchup against Carolina, and I don't want him to miss it. Algier is limited with a hip issue. That's a new one. Nico Collins, he's got hip and foot issues, and he had a do not practice to start the week. He was limited today. Let's hope he's good to go. He's one of the top 5 wide receivers out there. Addison, he is still not practicing, so Naylor's the guy. Aaron Jones came up with a limited hip issue. Signed Gaskin for Minnesota. Does that mean anything? Not really. Chandler, though, has potential to be a running back number 1. We'll see what happens there. Tajay Spears says he'll play. Jaden Reed didn't practice. He has a calf injury. That's a new one, so monitor that one. He played through pain last week, but with Malik at the helm, who knows? St. Brown was a full participant today, so that's good. Detroit gets their number 1 guy back. Taysom Hill didn't practice. He's still got a chest injury. Mostert practiced. He might be available this week. And then last, Jordan Love. He had a limited practice, which is encouraging. I still think it's a little bit too early for him to come back. We'll see what Green Bay has in store. Now again, Wednesday is a typical do not practice for vets and injuries we really know about, so I didn't highlight those. Thursday is really the first true look we get for the week. Remember, the Jets and Pats are tomorrow night. And 90 minutes prior, you'll get the last update on those two teams. So keep on look out for that. All right, let's jump into the under-overs, and we'll start with the underappreciated. At the quarterback position, we'll start off with Dak Prescott. Now, I know, Ding, you're asking yourself, what am I talking about? It just feels like a bounce-back game for him. I know he's going up against the Ravens, and the Ravens are a tough out, but they lost to Vegas at home, so they're not that tough. And the Ravens are 0-2 for a reason. There's issues there. Now, CeeDee Lamb is going to have to be targeted in this game. His 7 targets from last game are not going to cut it. He needs 15 minimum. Might get Ferguson back. The defense is missing a couple of guys. It's going to be a lot of scoring in this one. Vegas has an over-under line that's the 3rd highest for the week. Somebody's got to score, and Dak's got to throw. And let's face it, CeeDee Lamb and Dak got obscene paychecks. They need to prove that they're worth it. All right, the next quarterback I have is Derek Carr. He's only 10% owned. What an insult. He's the number 2 quarterback in fantasy right now. Now, the Eagles can be exploited in the pass. Kamara's been elite. Carr dumps it off to Kamara, and he runs 50 yards for a touchdown. Add in the fact that they're at home. This is the 2nd highest Vegas over-under, so this is kind of a no-brainer. And the 3rd quarterback is Minshew. He's playing against Carolina. I don't think I need to say anything more on that subject. Moving on to the running backs, Zamir White. Now, this is his chance to shine. Carolina is giving up 200 yards rushing per game, and he's at home versus potentially the worst defense in the NFL. As long as Madison doesn't vulture his touchdowns, this is his best and only chance, in my opinion, to avoid Madison taking over the starting job. If he screws this up, it's over for Zamir White. Pollard is the next running back. Green Bay gives up almost 150 yards per game on the ground, and Spears is banged up. I know he says he'll play, but I still think Pollard gets 20 touches. And Tennessee needs to run the ball. I mean, Levis is not a good quarterback. Vegas has this as the lowest over-under of 37.5, which predicts basically a ground attack for the week. And then last is Swift. Now, I'm really taking a risk here, but hear me out. The Colts got gashed for over 200 yards, most by Mixon, and then they got destroyed by Jacobs in week 2 for 150 yards. So if Chicago can commit to the run, they can win this game. Coach, are you listening? Moving on to wide receivers. Jamar Chase. Now, it feels weird putting him in this list because you'd think he'd be elite and a no-brainer. But this year, he's pathetic for so many different reasons. But if Daniel Jones can throw 2 touchdowns against Washington, so can Burrow. And one of them should go to Chase. Maybe the other goes to Gesicki, or Lasivis gets his third for the year. We'll see. And number 2, Thielen. Now, I'm taking a huge risk on this one. But Dalton's coming in, and vets look for vets to throw to. And he needs a possession receiver who's an excellent route runner. And Thielen is both of these things. I'm thinking double-digit targets. He might even catch 10 balls for like 80 yards. He might get a touchdown. And then Amari Cooper. He's having a tough year. Drops have been a bug for him lately, but he gets the Giants defense and he can exploit them. It's time for him to shine at home. And this is more me rooting for him because I think Cooper is an elite wide receiver. But if he's going to have a week, this is it. I'm feeling a touchdown here. All right. And at the tight end position, Henry. Now he's the number 5 overall tight end. New England just figured out that they have a chance of winning if they just throw him the ball like 12 times. So they need to keep doing that. The second tight end, Gesicki. Higgins is probably going on again. He's getting targeted even more. I think this is where he actually gets his first touchdown that the refs count for the season. And then third, Kelsey. I can't believe I actually have to save his name here. But after last week's near loss, I'm just going to call it. This is the Travis Swifties' first touchdown of the season. They better start targeting him or they're going to have even closer games. They might even lose. Are the refs listening right now? All right, let's move into overhyped. At the quarterback position, Richardson. Now he's facing Chicago at home. Chicago's defense is elite, and they're going to wreck his day most likely. And if he thought Green Bay was tough, the whole NFC North has strong defenses. And he's going to be exposed. He's still a rookie, in my opinion. He hasn't played that much. This is going to be a game of turnovers and a pounding for him from a sack perspective. Look out, Richardson. Second quarterback is Stafford. Now, it's unfair putting him here, but without his top 2 wide receivers and playing an elite defense, this is going to be a rough game for him. So close your eyes, hope he doesn't get hurt, and consider that a victory. I'd even play Darnold as a backup instead, and that is saying something if you've been listening to my podcast. Last quarterback is Goff. Now, I'm a Detroit fan. I have him here, not that I think he's going to struggle, but I think that for Detroit to be successful versus Arizona, they need to run the ball more. His 55 attempts last week were great if you own him, but they lost. Now, I don't think Campbell is going to figure this out, but he needs to run. And I'm going to go on the assumption that he can be taught. Coach, if you're listening, exploit the run game, please. Speaking of the run game, at running back, I have Jacobs. Now, for Jacobs, this is a trap game. He's already nursing a back issue. He was limited in practice today. Tennessee is a top 5 run defense this year, and they just shut down Breece Hall and the Jets. Look out. Second running back is JT. Now, Chicago has posted sub 90-yard rushing games to opposing offenses for the first 2 weeks, and Indy is struggling, and so will JT. And then the last running back, I can't believe I'm going to say it, Breece Hall. I know. I hear you. I hear you yelling through the computer. But the Pats are no joke against the run. They're holding teams to less than 70 yards a game. And Allen's emergence and possible timeshare could bump Hall down to an RB2. Over and under in Vegas is 38.5. They're predicting a low-scoring game. Hopefully he gets a touchdown to save his day, but look out. At the wide receiver position, Deontay Johnson. He was the first one last week. He's the first one this week because he's completely overhyped. And Andy Dalton coming in is not a savior. The O-line is still terrible. Honestly, Dalton's not going to save them. This is not a breakout day that everyone is predicting. And they are away versus a team that beat Baltimore in Baltimore. Second wide receiver is Quentin Johnson. Now, for some odd reason, everyone thinks that he's a breakout player because he had a good game against Carolina. Newsflash, everybody has a good game against Carolina. And this was an extreme outlier with 2 touchdowns. Now he's got to go into Pittsburgh with a quarterback who's had more medical examinations this week than practices. Hope he didn't spend too much fab money on him. You're going to be disappointed. And then third, I have Olave. Now he's a top 40 wide receiver now, but that's barely top 40. And teams are game planning against him. Kamara's success is hurting him in his target share, and the Eagles should be successful at shutting him down, considering they basically shut down London last week until that late touchdown that should have never happened. Barkley. And last, at tight end, Kincaid, all the hype preseason, and with he's in a total timeshare with Knox. and a team is focused on the run, he's just not getting the target share that he hoped. They're subpar wide receivers. Honestly, I never thought he was worth the hype, but he's going to struggle this week. And then Goddard. No A.J. Brown in week 2, and he's still only got 4 targets. Avoid. And that'll do it for the under-overs. I hope this helps you make some tough decisions for the week. Our first and second rounders keep getting hurt, and managing your bench can be the difference in your head-to-head matchups. Good luck. Now, before we sign off, I want to give a shout out to our men and women in uniform who protect the freedoms we hold dear. Thank you for your service and sacrifice. And finally, thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe and follow us on X, YouTube, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts so you can stay up to date on our latest content. And until then, remember, established dominance isn't just a catchphrase, it's a commitment. Are you ready?